If it wouldn't have been for him, I was such an idiot in those days. I'd have just grabbed all the money out of the register and just who knows what I'd have done with it, But because he's my brother, he's my partner, I didn't tell. He ran that place and did it the right way. The money, it doesn't seem nowadays that it was that much, but then it seemed like there would be no way in hell I could ever pay it back. And what the hell did we do? And it seemed like a mountain of money. You know me, so anytime things get good, I got to go back to the bank and get. Boy, I can't stop taking. I got to constantly take another risk. If you ever want to see an idiot, just look at me. I can't. I love getting beat. I think that's so important, is to be humble enough and for lack of a better word, scared enough to know at any given time, man, this all goes away. Sometimes Maggie's, I feel like we're never the sexiest date in town, but we always go to the dance. When they tell me I'm lucky, I don't think I am. I think I'm fortunate. I think I worked very hard to stay there and to try to make it successful, and feel like I have to a certain extent, knowing that at any given time I could lose it.
All right, this episode of the Noble Lore podcast is brought to you by Noble Lore. What do we do? Well, we are the record label of podcasting. You come to us, you want to get a message out there and amplify your voice. We take care of that, from the editing, from the production, to the marketing and the distribution. A to Z, we handle your show, get you some money, get you some eyeballs, because we are in an attention economy, and that's exactly what we do, baby. So Noble Lore. And then we are also taking on sponsorships now for this show. We've been growing, looking for anyone that sees what we do, or we're around communication, small communities, sobriety, and organized religion is an interest of ours. So if that fits into your brand, let's have a little chit chat. Noble Lore, baby.
So those first 4 years was tough as far as just getting through everything, figuring everything out, and on top of it, paying bills and stuff. But we always did it somehow, because on paper it didn't work those first few years. But we never missed a payment or nothing like that. But it was tough, and then there was a lot of work involved there. But that was the first 4 years, and after that, it kind of every year we grew subtly. Maybe $100,000 a year, a little bit here, a little bit here, but every year it kind of added on top of the previous. And then after 4 years, the bank and everything was paid off, and it was like, holy cow, like we might be actually able to pay ourselves a little bit, and by then we were making more money. And so things started to lighten up a little bit. And then I'd say about 7 or 8 years in was when then it was like, okay, man, now we got a little breathing room here, for sure. And then at some point in there, and I don't remember exactly how many years into it, but then I bought Bombers.
And, that's right. Kings Highway.
Yeah, from my buddy Jimmy Bomberito. And we actually kept Jimmy stayed involved with us, and we bought that. And then
what year was that?
I want to say that would have been 14, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Maybe about 14. And then we ended up selling it. I was just juggling so much with the two, and by that time, Pat and I knew we wanted to expand the Maggie O'Brien's brand. We wanted to get it maybe out in St. Peter, St. Charles, maybe down south. We weren't real sure what, but we knew we had the name, and we kind of wanted to see if we couldn't get into an existing location that already was kind of set up, and see if we couldn't take that to the next level with Maggie. So that was always kind of in the back of my mind. But then when you're doing that, it's tough. One of the things it was tough for me I felt like I was juggling a couple different concepts, and that was hard. Where it was easier, when you had multiple locations of Maggie's, it's kind of like it's all still the same thing. The menu's relatively all the same. Your direction's the same. Your message is the same. When you're also a South City Tavern, I had to kind of keep shifting gears, with employees and with how I was thinking. So I found that a little challenging, I guess. But in the process of that, so we had that for a while, and then we ended up selling it to my good buddy, God rest his soul, Jimmy Wars. And then he took that and ran with it for sure, took that to a whole new level and did wonderful with it. And then the process, because I lost my brother, and in there as well, God rest his soul. It's so crazy to think about all that. But I just kept hearing in the back of my head, there was a part of me when I lost him, just because it was our whole dream to do it and whatever. There was a part of me early on that was just like ready to just, cash it in and just say, I'm good. I don't want to, without him, I don't. But then after, I kind of got through it for a little bit. I don't know. There was a part of me in the back, had something in the back of my head that just kept saying, go for it. I don't know if it was him saying it or I felt like he was saying it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
How many years in were you when
so
Pat
by that time, so Pat passed away November the 9th, 2016. And And I guess by that time, maybe we had owned it since what was it? I guess March of '06.
Okay.
Something like that. So whatever that math comes out to be. But so once I lost him, then there was part of me that was like, all of a sudden it was like, then I almost went the other direction with it, which was now I'm going to go full throttle and just in his name, just for him, and his legacy and whatever. And then that kind of drove me. And then I kind of became a psychopath, like, internally, like just trying to constantly, I was always thinking about, probably to the point where it probably wasn't good for me, but I probably needed it at the time, helped me kind of get through it and out of that. But I came very focused at that time on really kind of running with it. So knowing what Pat and I wanted to do, which was keep pushing this Maggie's brand, that was when I went and started looking. And actually, kind of ironic, at the time, before I had sold Bombers to Jimmy, he was doing, because he had sold Truman's way back when, he was business broker, and so he brokered the deal that when I went out and bought O'Leary's out in Sunset Hills. So I bought O'Leary's, he brokered it, and which was kind of cool, which was funny because he was still doing that right at the end, but I had already sold him Bombers. I had just sold him Bombers. And the reason, like I said, I knew I wanted to start going the Maggie O'Brien's direction. And not that I wouldn't, do something else that had a different concept. But at the time, the way it was for me, I was so involved and was really doing everything that it made sense to keep my message the same. So once we did that, he brokered that deal, and I ended up buying O'Leary's out in Sunset Hills. And then obviously and that would have been in October of 17. And then obviously we changed the name to Maggie's immediately just because, and I thought that was kind of a good fit because it was already an Irish type bar that was somewhat similar to a Maggie's that had been there for a long time, So it wasn't like I was taking a shell of a place and doing it, or it wasn't like it was a Mexican restaurant. Not that there's anything wrong with the Mexican, but I wasn't trying to change a concept in a location that had been there for a while.
Yep.
So it kind of made sense to do it that way, or I thought it did. I don't, you find out pretty quick what you think makes sense, doesn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's kind of how that ran, and then from there, we had the second one, and then I was definitely looking from there to kind of even go another one, and that was kind of right around, I waited maybe a year and a half, and I started kind of looking around, and then that was kind of right about when COVID hit, and then that really put the brakes on everything, and then it was just a free-for-all, and how do you stay alive, so.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a gist of how that whole, I know that was me throwing up a lot there, but that's kind of the gist of how the whole thing kind of came together.
I wish every podcast was like this. I got all kinds of shit I can run with now. But okay, so you mentioned the dream that where did this dream with you and Pat start? And like, what was the origin of that?
So I was in sales, Jack, before I got into the restaurant business, and I've never been married. I have no children. And so I always knew in the back of my head, whatever this is, and I know a lot of people think they want to own a bar or restaurant until they really do, and I know that's, and I support anybody that really wants to do it. I just say, really make sure you get your facts before you do it and understand really what you're getting into, because there's a lot to it. But anyway, I always knew I kind of wanted to, but I was smart enough to know I didn't know enough about it to take on something like a Maggie's, so I wasn't even looking at Maggie's. I was thinking just like more of like a shotgun tavern. Maybe I could live above it. Put a cute girl behind the bar. I could flip some greasy cheeseburgers and just keep life simple and, and be fun and have a place my buddies could hang, so that was what I was thinking. So I was kind of socking my money away, and I was in sales. I worked with Doug, we were over down here in South City with John Schicker at McMahon. I was a finance manager, director for him. And I did very well. The Schickers were very good to me. Doug was always very good to me. Always, I kind of went where he went. So I did well, and I kind of, like I said, I didn't have those other responsibilities with the family, which really made it, that when you don't have to, when you can take a risk when you're not thinking, man, if I do this, my kid, there's a little leeway there, so I was fortunate in that regard. So I knew I wanted to do it, and kept it in the back of my mind, kept kind of socking some money away. And then a good friend of our family's is Harry Belli. And Harry was the original owner of Maggie O'Brien's, and he owned Harry's. I don't know if you're old enough for that, but that was a big. So right up the street from Maggie's, he opened up. It used to be an old muffler shop.
Okay.
And he turned it around. Matter of fact, one summer, all I did was clean the weeds out of the fence line right there on Highway, what used to be 40 that went right through there. There was an exit, but he turned an old muffler shop into a place called Harry's, and it was kind of a fine dining, but also at night a place where young, all the athletes would go there, all that kind of stuff. It kind of went from Maggie's up to there because at one time that was kind of Maggie's without the fine dining. So he killed that, did really well with it, and at some point, I don't know if he was, maybe around 70 or something there, whatever, around that time that Pat and I got involved. But Pat had worked for Harry forever. He had basically bartended for him right out of college. Pat went to played soccer at UMSL, and then graduated, and then was bartending for Harry. And I think he just made good enough money he didn't want to leave. And then he started a catering company out of it.
Pat did,
and he was going to start his own. Harry was like, "Hey, man, use my equipment, use the name. It's already established, and we'll do a percentage thing here, and you get the whatever." So that worked out great. And so Pat was involved, but Pat had been around that location forever. Like when I say forever, since like 1980. So out of nowhere, I'm in Harry's having a cocktail, and Harry just came up to me and said, "Hey, Eddie, give me a sec. I want to holler at you." So we went out, outside or something, and he said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for a tavern." And I was like, "Yeah, and I thought he was just going to say, hey, my buddy Joe's got a place." I didn't know where it was going. And he said, "Well, I'm looking to sell Maggie's. Why don't you think about Maggie's?" And I started laughing. I was like, because it's huge. The place is big. And I was like, Harry, I wouldn't know the first thing to do. I'm thinking about a greasy cheeseburger and a cold beer. I don't know anything about it. And he's like, "Yeah, but your brother Pat does." And I was like, "All right, well, then it kind of made me go, well, okay, let's see." And that kind of started the thought process. So then maybe a week or so later, I just went down and had lunch with Pat or had a beer with Pat or something. I don't remember how we did it. And I just brought it up to him. I said, "Hey, man," I just explained to him exactly what I just said to you. And I could tell he was open to it. He was like, "Man, Harry's thought on it, and I think he was right. I didn't know it at the time, but his deal was, yeah, Pat knows how this goes and how to run this, something this size. He's already done it forever. But Pat ain't gonna be the one want to be the guy out front shaking hands and kissing babies. He's like, you need somebody out there that's gonna be, the front of it, and then somebody that handles the back of it. And you guys are perfectly set for that. Not that Pat was great to be around and whatever, but he wasn't the guy. That we both had our own thing that we were good at. So
what made you good at it? What made you good?
I don't know. I guess just literally, everybody thinks this about themselves, but having a beer, sitting down and having beers with people and joking around and just saying hey and whatever. I enjoyed it. I knew a lot of people in the industry. I was out running all the time, and we'd get all of a sudden, we started getting a lot of restaurant and bar owners coming in that weren't, a lot of athletes, that was happening. And that was good, for business. It kept us going, going up and up, but like I say, if it wouldn't have been for him, I was such an idiot in those days. I'd have just grabbed all the money out of the register and just who knows what I'd have done with it, But because he was my brother, he's my partner. I didn't tell he ran that place and did it the right way, and I learned over the years a lot from that, and had a little pretty good background with working with the people and maybe being a little a leader as far as being a boss or something with my previous background, so that helped a little bit. But Pat definitely was the cog on the keeping that thing going as far as us knowing what we were doing for a place that size. Because it's hard enough to do with a relatively smaller place, but when it's that big, there's a lot to it. So that was kind of how that whole thing kind of fell together, and then so once I brought that up to him, then him and I kind of eventually started talking to a bank or two, and I think we were told no 2 or 3 times, thanks, but no thanks. And then we got who's a good friend of mine now, Paul Gross, but at the time, I think he was at the time they were with Pulaski, I think, but now he's with Carrollton Bank. But anyway, he gave us a shot. And it's so funny now. It's all relative, but back then I can remember pulling away from that meeting thinking, I wrote a check to start the process, like a down thing, a downstroke, and I can remember just like kind of white knuckling driving away thinking, what the hell did we just do? And looking at my brother Pat, he's like, oh, what's white as it goes? Like he didn't know. And that money now would know if, it's all relative. But, if I had to go get that kind of money now, I wouldn't think twice about it because it was so minuscule compared to what things are now. It just kept getting bigger and bigger, which we had to grow with and blah, 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 blah. So, but that always kind of stands out to me how, the money, it doesn't seem nowadays that it was that much, but then it seemed like there would be no way in hell I could ever pay it back. And what the hell did we do? And it seemed like a mountain of money, so.
So where do you go from there? How do you work your way out of like that mind state and being in that?
I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I think this is what you do. What I did was, as I look back, was I just kept getting up and going to work.
Yeah.
Literally, I don't know how things would fall together, because there was a lot of times, man, you're trying to figure out, okay, if we, but like I said, we made all of our payments. There was never a deal like that. But there was times you were like, all right, this ain't due for 2 more weeks, so we'll send this for,
Yeah.
And then we were blessed in the regard that it kept growing. We kept staying the course with what we wanted to be, who we wanted to be, and kind of rebuilt. Even though Maggie's had been around a long time, Harry had, I think, really had to focus a lot on Harry's, and maybe Maggie's lost a little bit of its touch over the years. And we needed to bring that back and just kind of stay the course with the McVeys, and how a place we'd want to hang out in, get a sandwich, get a beer, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And that was it. Was just showing up. And then all of a sudden, like I say, after 4 years, like, man, we got that paid off. Man, we got that. And then things got a little bit better. And, you know me. So anytime things get good, I got to go back to the bank and get, I can't stop taking. I got to constantly take another risk. If you ever want to see an idiot, just look at me. I love getting beat up.
Do you love taking risks because do you have absolute confidence that it'll work out? Or do you love taking risks because it's exciting? Or
I don't know. I feel like there's sometimes, if it presents itself and you're in a position to do it, I go if I think I'm not just anything. If it's something I think I can make a go of, I go for it. I try to anyway. There's plenty of times there's things been presented to me that I either couldn't do or didn't think it was the best thing to do. But if you're always kind of on the fence, but if you think, man, I could make this work, or if I did this, or invested some money here on improving the bar or the kitchen or whatever, we'll get a return on this. And, it's pretty good chunks a lot of times. And certainly when we did the renovation, it was huge. But when it's all said and done, I guess you just weigh your options. And by no means, listen, I mean this sincerely, am I some guru? I don't know. I mean, I always think this. I think you could. It's you're one bad decision away from losing everything. I always think that, and it's, I'll have people say to me, why does the salt and pepper, why do you keep telling that girl to move the salt and pepper? I'm like, the little things equal the big things, man. If the little stuff doesn't matter to me anymore, because I think, oh, I'm doing so good, I think slowly but surely that's going to sneak up and punch me right in the back of the head. And, I saw an interview once with, and this stuck out to me, and there's going to be no correlation in the crossover here, but Dale Earnhardt, I think it was ESPN, was the senior, was getting interviewed, and he was fishing. And this would have been like maybe 15 years. I don't know if it might have been after he had passed and they were just replaying the interview, but it might have been like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So it was still relatively, it wasn't right at the beginning or something for me, but the lady asked him something along the lines of, hey, you spun out, and I think it was like Robbie Gordon or something. But anyway, you spun out so-and-so to win that race, and he's raced for 10 years. He's never won a cup race. You spun him out, and you know him, you know his family, and blah, blah. And what's in you that makes you do it? And he said, if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. And she said, well, give me a shot or whatever. So, and he said, every day I wake up and think I'm going to lose my sponsors. He said, and she's like, there's no way, you're Dale Earnhardt. I mean, you're the intimidator. No one, everybody. He's like, I know you won't believe it, but he's like, every single day I'm scared I'm going to lose those sponsors, because I knew how hard it was to get it. So because of that, it keeps giving me that edge to want to, and I think that's so important, is to be humble enough and for a lack of a better word, scared enough to know at any given time, man, this all goes away. You make one wrong decision, whatever, nowadays climate, who knows what it could be, whatever it is, that all of a sudden, flying high in April and shot down in May, and that's just the way it is. And I come to grips with that, and I'm okay. Cause like I said, I don't want anyone to think by any means that I'm some, restaurant or bar guru, cause I'm the furthest thing from it. I think this business is you throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And hope you can pay for it if it does. That's how it is with me.
So I started my business a year and 6 months ago. Gave myself about 3 months runway to live off of, and like every day since. So like I used to, I think I've told this before, but I would wake up in the middle of the night to piss every night, pretty much. And for I don't know if that's, for me, I was like, that's not normal. That's not natural. But then as soon as I started my own business, so I was doing that when I was working in a sales job, started my own business, and I stopped doing that like completely and utterly. And like what
do you think?
I think it was just finally I'm like, I am believing in myself. Like it's up to me now. Like my security is in my hands, whereas before it never really felt like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But to your point, I haven't spent a single day of like not fucking terrified. Just absolutely terrified.
Yeah. And in thinking, that you can't, it's tough to turn that brain off, because like when you bring up waking up, I literally sometimes will wake up and have conversations with myself. Don't think about it. Because as soon as I start breaking a number down in my head, or I got to pay this, don't forget that guy's coming in to put this up on as soon as that starts, if it's 4 in the morning, I might as well get up, have my coffee, and start the day, because once I start thinking, I'll sit there and flip-flop, and I know it now. And so I almost have conversations of trying to keep thoughts out of my head so that I can get through the night or whatever. But I get it, believe me. And I think, I don't know this, but if you had to do it by yourself and do everything on your own and figure it out, I think that's part of it. I think it's part of the process. And it is just up and down.
Constant.
It's constantly. You think, man, I'm doing great. And all of a sudden, nope, back down here.
Yep.
I know it.
I guess it's more of like it feels like you're going, in those down moments, it feels like everything's falling apart, but you're a little bit higher up than you were
absolutely
the last time, hopefully.
And you keep trying to find a way. I say this all the time. I don't care if you own a hot dog stand or if you own the biggest corporation, whatever, and you own. I mean, if you own it, you're feeling it. Yep. I don't care what it is. You feel those ups and downs and that scary stuff, and because it's all somewhat relative. The guy's got everything invested in that one little stand, or everything invested in. He built this thing up. I can't tell you how many times I walk through people don't know that's around somebody that doesn't know that I own it, but say the place is packed, and you hear somebody say, "Oh, this place is a gold mine." I want to turn around and say, "Hey, you want to buy it?" Yeah, it's a gold mine. It costs a lot to put this party on, buddy. So, yeah.
Oh, and I look at my Uncle Brian, who's one of your childhood friends, and I with a bunch of kids running, I cannot even imagine doing that with a bunch of kids.
Well, that lends itself back to what I said. I had the luxury of not having that pressure, because even if you're successful, and very successful as he is in his field, he's very successful in his field. I mean, that pressure has got to just absolutely, be. And I come from a baby of 11, and my dad never had, So
what was that like?
Well, it was nuts. I was the youngest of 11, 6 girls, 5 boys, and mom and dad together forever, and they both have since passed. But my dad was a city policeman for early on for the most of it, and then anyway, we certainly didn't have. We were in a little tiny house up in Glasgow Village, and boys were in the basement, and there was 2 triple bunk beds in my sister's room, and my crib and a bathtub. In a shower that the boys stood on and pulled the chain, take a shower over a hole in the ground, but didn't know any different. I guess I was a baby, so it was good. I mean, we never wanted for anything. My family's super tight. We couldn't, we're all very close, but no one gave us. You learned how to do it. I bust tables at Maggie's all the way through high school and parked cars in college. So I worked there all the way through, just kind of, and a lot of times I feel like I've gotten this quite a bit. People think like your dad used to own it and then gave it to you or something, that kind of thing. And it's kind of funny. I kind of chuckled, I'm just like, no, my dad didn't have nothing to do with this.
I tell people that I want 9 kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of them look at me crazy, and a lot of them have this and that. Do you, growing up with 10 other siblings, right? You were the youngest.
Yeah.
When I say that, what do you think? What do you hear?
Well, and back to, I guess, to the point of what you're at, my dad would always say this. He's like, if it wasn't for your mother, we couldn't have pulled this off. My mom came from East St. Louis, 10th and State. She went to St. Teresa's Academy over there. Now I'm 52. They had me even old. They were 47 and 45, or 45 and 43 when they had me. So, if they were still alive today, you're talking almost pushing 100. But so they were from the old, like most of my buddies' grandparents were my parents. Once I got 10 and 12 years old, I felt like there's a lot of the grandparents that were kind of close to my mom and dad's age, so I kind of came from I feel like a little bit of a different era, like maybe the group above me, as far as what what expectations and things like that. But my dad would say all the time, it wasn't for your mother. My mom never put, he would tell us this as we got older, but my mom never put any pressure on him like he wasn't doing enough or you're not providing enough. She didn't come from anything either. So she was just, and she had that good disposition. She was that old school mom that saw good in everybody and didn't put that I think with a lot of relationships that happens, one person puts a lot of pressure on the other, not providing enough, or they want more of this or that. And that is a serious strain when you're already, I can remember my dad going, I mean, back in the day, I don't know how many bills they had. I guess an electric bill, a phone bill, the house bill, and maybe one credit card. I don't know. There wasn't that many. I mean, there was bills, but it wasn't like it is today where you got this coming off for this and that, this monthly fee and that. And he'd be down there for half a day and doing the bills. That's what he called it, doing the bills. And I always wonder, well, as I got older, I know what he was doing. He was down there trying to figure out, okay, if I put $20 towards this and $10 towards that, and that'll give me another, but to do that week in and week out and still keep food on the table for all those kids, and that was the choices they made. But, they're Irish Catholics. That's just, I think we had the one neighbor next door, the Kellers, they had 9. And then 2 next to us, there was the Kaufmans, they had 8. So, I mean, that was just, that was our neighborhood. That was just how it was then. I don't know how, anyway, I mean, people could say, well, they put themselves in that position, but that's just kind of how it was.
Yeah.
And he never complained at all, never about anything. But he would always say it was because of my mom that they were able to do it. And he didn't complain because she didn't, which is a blessing, so.
Man, I hear that and I'm like, God, it feels so hard to find that right now.
Oh, man. My take is, I really do think, and I'm not being, now that I'm 50 and this younger general, but it's not even younger. It's been around a while, but all the dating apps and all that stuff, man, everybody, it's always, yeah, but, man, yeah, I like them, but maybe this next guy will be better, or this next girl will be better, or this, it's just a constant hookup culture of what, I think it's hard to then, because of that, and it's so accepted. I see it at the tavern all the time. Anyway, I think it's hard nowadays. Not that it's not doable, but it's just not the same. The values there, it's just a different thing. Good, great, very, very good people that come from great families and stuff. Just still, I mean, guys and girls, that's how they operate. It's just, meet up with this person, meet up with that person. And in the process of doing that, you're going to lose some of that old schoolness, I think. That's just my take, whatever. But
what is the old schoolness?
I don't know, like you lose some of that chivalry, some of that doing things the right way, some of that taking our time, and listen, you're talking to me. I'm not, there's no saint going on here. I'm just giving my 2 cents as I look at it. Like, I think there's something there that kind of takes away from, it's just, yeah, but what have you done for me lately? Like there's so much access. You didn't have that, man. I mean, you couldn't, I mean, just think, even with like porn and stuff, I mean, you can't, when I grew up, so you're talking about I was born in the 70s, but let's say during the 80s, I mean, if one of your buddies had a Playboy, buddy, we're all going around the back of the house and checking it. That was a big deal. You weren't, maybe somebody had a VHS tape of some weird porn or something, but I mean, you didn't have access at your fingers. So you're talking about guys like us, even growing up in the 80s and early 90s. I mean, you move it back another generation of a little bit. I mean, you're talking about, you got at the access of your fingers, seeing the most beautiful women in the world naked, doing God knows what. But even if it's just seeing them naked, any guy, there's no, a lot of guys for sure before, one generation before us, but even kind of ours, when as young men, you'd never see a woman that pretty naked ever in your life, never, and so I mean, it takes kind of away from, you got to think about. I mean, it takes kind of away from the fact that, it just, I don't know. I think some guys are dating that, it's easier to date that and not have to worry about getting shot down and not have to take her out and not have to think, oh, I really like her and now she ghosts me, or vice versa. I'm not taking shots at just, guys or girls, but so I think there's something to that. I don't know that I'm right. And remember, this is coming from me. By no means am I a saint, but I just think I think there's some truth to that. It's just different. There's so much access. And then if you want to date somebody, just get on any, a lot of the people are on 3 and 4 of those sites, and it's just, that person was fun, but what if this person calls me back? What if so I don't know. I think it makes it tough to really build I think.
That's so the kind of one of the themes about this show is building smaller communities and building, not focusing so much on the federal level of things, not so much focusing on these bigger things, but let's get as local as possible. And so I hear like the neighborhood that you're growing up in, you've got almost 30 kids across only 3 families.
Yeah.
Is there is like, so are these you guys dating the other families, or like what's the dynamic like?
No, not real. Not that I'm aware, whether somebody stole a kiss under a tree or something. I don't know anything about that. But no one ended up with somebody or dated somebody. Now, a lot of my brothers and sisters ended up with or dated and ended up marrying people from the neighborhood or who they started seeing in grade school and high school. But not the direct right there. It was almost like you were so close that it was like brothers and sisters. I mean, that literally was, even for me, being 7 when we moved out of there. I mean, I was still young enough, but I mean, that whole idea of like, it was nothing for a neighbor mom to tell you what to do. I mean, nothing. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I mean, and you'd be with probably 2 of their kids and 2 of the other, I mean, so there was, or for a neighborhood dad, but it's for sure the mom could say, hey, do this or get out of here or move that, and you just did it. There was some of that for sure, and so I think there was some closeness there that none that I know of, that none of ours that actually, were in relationships, and certainly no one that got married or anything, but I'm sure that would definitely happen in some situations. There's no way, that's human nature.
So what I always thought about, like with the McVeys specifically, is when I start bringing a gal around, I'm taking her to Maggie's, or I'm taking her because you guys make everyone feel so special. What's that's like a pretty reoccurring theme amongst all of the McVey siblings.
My dad, I think that comes from my dad. He was good at. And I can even remember kind of him saying stuff to me as I got a little bit old, like when I say a little bit older, maybe high schoolish or something. But he was great about if you could tell there was somebody that was new, or it could even have been just guy with a group of guys, but he was the new guy. My dad would go right over to him, start talking to him, and he just had that. He just did it, and not being phony. But he made the guy feel comfortable, because everybody knows what it's like to come into a thing and not be the guy that knows anybody. Not that anybody's necessarily even being mean to you, but they're just, hey, how are you? And then they go right back to their. So I think my dad was definitely that way, and I think a lot of my brothers and sisters have picked up on that, because I've heard that a lot over the years from people that have told me that, and I take that as a very big compliment, because it should be, but it is, but I don't think anyone's doing it like, watch me go make this guy feel comfortable. It's just, we go out of our way. I think my brothers, for sure, my sisters do. And my dad definitely did that, just to make people feel, at home, and feel like they're part of the group, because no one wants to feel, left out or whatever. So whatever that is, I think it happens naturally. Maybe that's some of the Irish in us or something.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
We don't have a problem having a conversation with anybody.
Amen. So yeah, you're like, that's your talent, and then Pat is not, like you said, not like, he was great. Like I remember him, always enjoying seeing him at the bar too, even when we just went to lunch. But you got Patrick on the other end of that. What was he like? Was
my brother like? Pat? Yeah. He had that too, very much. And when I say not the front end, he was by no means an introvert.
Right.
Pat was a great athlete. Pat was one of the guys that literally was good at anything. I don't care if it was dark. Like I'd be like, oh, great, Pat's good at that too. Like, it was just like, who cares? Shut up, Pat. But he was good at stuff. He was good to people. But Pat taught me something great without knowing he was even teaching it to me. But Pat had more in common with the busboy than he did the owner of wherever we went, or the guy cleaning your car, as opposed to the guy that owned the dealership. And I think Pat experienced, when he was a bartender a lot of those years, when he was in there, maybe the guy that owned the dealership, I'm using that as an example, the owner of XYZ company, just acknowledged them, hello, and whatever, moved on. Then all of a sudden it starts being known we own Maggie's, and Maggie starts getting successful. All of a sudden these people are starting to pay. Listen, that jumps out to guys like us, we see that from a mile away. All of a sudden now, and I think that he felt that, and he if there was one thing about, so my point is that he taught me was, you be just as kind to you need to be just as kind to the busboy as you are to the owner. Everybody's been down on that rung, most people have, and he did there. So I learned that from him, just from watching him as a young man and whatever. Pat was 13 years older than I was, and But my point to Pat was he just was not a phony baloney guy. He did not like phony baloney. So if you were a phony, he didn't care who you were. He just didn't care. None of that stuff mattered to him. So as soon as you showed any of that phony, tough guy stuff or whatever, he'd just be like, whatever, Eddie, get rid of him.
Is that the case?
Yeah, no. But that's just how he was. So, Pat, so he most certainly had the front of the house thing. I don't think he didn't have the mentality of, I'm going to go out to, Pop's Blue Moon, have cocktails and bring in you guys down there. And Eddie comes down here and sees us. Let's swing down and see him. Or you end up meeting a couple of the ball players or a couple of the, he's got a family and stuff. He don't want to be running. He had his beers though, but he'd be the first one over to say hello to you. And I mean, he was a bartender forever. There's nobody that understood how to do that better than him at all. He just wasn't going to be the guy that was, and he knew it. He'd tell it, he wasn't going to be the guy that was going to be out running. He didn't do that at all. He had his beers and stuff, but he went home and was with his family, and that's how he was, So he certainly though could go and have a conversation with anybody, and very, very good at it. And but he liked the little guy as much as, if not more, than the big guy. The guy that was just and kid, the younger kid. We used to have that. You were there, I think, at some of them. We had those Super Bowl parties. Oh yeah. And we would close on Super Bowl early on when we owned it, and it would just start, because it was always such a day that people did house parties in our downtown location. Nobody lived there. So we noticed that the sales weren't nothing. So we started shutting down and just doing friends and family. And we'd have like a jump house in there for the kids and stuff. And I want to say, you were still a young man and showed up to a few of those, but he'd get on that microphone and he'd be giving stuff away to all he did it he got a kick out of the kids. And he'd always act like, he'd say, hey, what is that thing that everybody plays and whatever? And somebody'd say, oh, the PlayStation. He'd act like he had a PlayStation or an Xbox. Right. And the kid, we're giving that away here in 20 minutes. And all the kids would run up. Did you give that away? He goes, yeah, that guy over there got it. So he enjoyed all that kind of stuff. And, something I think about with Pat is, when you lose somebody, what people don't realize, when you lose somebody, when you shouldn't have lost them, when they're taken from you, you don't just immediately affect just me, my brothers and sisters. His wife, who's a saint, goes to heaven. Do not pass go. She's 100% angel. His children, Maggie and Michael. But, I see their grandchildren now, and I think, there was never a guy that was more made to be a grandpa than that guy. Taking them fishing, taking them hunting, taking them golfing, because God knows Pat did all of it. There was not a field he passed that he wasn't staring for a friggin' Australian frog or some shit. I never knew what the hell he was doing, but he was always looking at nature and doing stuff. But you take that from generations, that they don't have that. It's a sad thing, but he was truly, and everyone says this when someone passes, and I know there's probably some real truth to it in most cases, but he was a great man in almost all aspects that I can think. So many of my flaws that he did not have. He was a gentleman and a great man, and got a kick out of who I was and never made me feel bad for who I was. One time I came in, and I don't remember, I think I was with my buddy Timmy T, and we were, I don't know, this is early, but I would do stupid, I was just an idiot. So I come in and I take my shirt off in the bar or something. Now this is our place, and I might have even had my pants down or something, but I had boxers on or something. Okay, I did. But anyway, him and I both walk in like that, and we're loaded, and so I guess whoever, there must have been a group down there from some hotel or something. They called down, and naturally they should. I'm being an idiot. So they're mad, and we're not going to send anybody down there anymore. So I don't know. So in the morning, Pat and I are partners, so he can, but he's still, you got to remember, we're partners in business, but in my family, there's a pecking order. My dad established that a long time. If your brother's older than you are, no matter what, there is an established pecking order. So he's your boss, whether he is on paper or not. So he said, hey, come here. So I came to the office. And I knew what was coming. So he said, that gal called down from the whatever hotel. She said, and I said, yeah. I said, sorry about that, man. I should have done that. And he said, hey, he goes, look at me. I looked over at him. He goes, don't ever do it again. And I said, I won't. He goes, don't stop doing it. That's what he said. Now, I knew exactly what he meant. Yeah. Like, I got it, and he got it. That's the thing with Pat. He understood that is the stuff people talk about. That's not people. But if you're being a knucklehead and being funny in a nice way, maybe I should have just done the shirt off and not the pants down. But that's neither here nor there. But he got it because he had seen it for so many years in that business. The things that would make that thing go or get kind of a laugh or people talking about that guy, whatever. So I got what he meant. Don't do that exactly, but don't stop being you, man. Don't stop, and I always appreciated that, about him. He saw through the forest. Once again, maybe the Irish in him. I don't know.
I love that. I'm going to steal that one. So, his funeral was it was packed.
Yeah.
It was packed. What do you think what did it, when he passed away, what did that do to your family? What did that do to you?
Yeah, it was tough, man. Obviously it doesn't get any tougher. I don't know how to explain it. The funeral itself, you're talking, mayors and chiefs of police and fire. And they were, they're there early labor leaders. It was insane. And I had to it was just insane. All 11 of us or 10 of us now kind of lined up down the line. And I tried to start going out to people that I would see just to say hello that I knew were just there for me to try to get them to where they didn't have. You're talking people were standing in line for 2 and 3 hours out of the building. The guy from Kudus told me at the time, he said, we've done senators or, governors and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, this is the biggest one I've ever seen. I've been doing it for 15 years. It was definitely a tribute to him, for sure. And there was just a lot too. When you got that, not only for him, but when you got that many kids, you got 10 of us, so you got people that maybe didn't even know Pat that well, but they're coming for you. And it was awe-inspiring. I'll tell you that. It devastated my family. I don't, just completely devastated the family. So
how does a family get through that?
Once again, I think of this sometimes. I kind of was talking to 2 of my brothers about this a couple months ago, but I look back and I don't know. Yeah. I literally just got up. Yeah. I just got up and would go. And really the reason for me was because of his wife and his kids. I'm like, well, if they're going, my fat ass is going. I ain't, gonna be you got to show up for them, because if they can do it, what are you doing? But I've been through, so it was devastating. It's just absolutely devastating. And because he was, it's the little things too. When you finally go back to work, I remember seeing, and they're still hanging there, but seeing like, I got him glasses one time, the magnet glasses, because he'd always wear them around his neck, and I bought them somewhere or got them at an auction or something for him to be funny. Well, he actually was like, "Oh, those are gonna be great. I don't have to." And he hung. Pat was also everything had its place. He did he went like me. I'd have done that for one day. The next day I'd be buying another set because I sat on them or didn't know where I put them. But he hung them on the same nail every day at, in the office. And I saw those hanging there, his briefcase. All that stuff was tough, or early on especially, or knowing where he'd sit for lunch, or seeing the day that it happened. That, he did the crossword puzzle every day. And then seeing that thing was sitting there on the, that kind of stuff was hard. It was stuff like that. And the other part too is, 99.9% of the people mean well, and I'm good with saying, hey man, very sorry, but so many people, I was his best friend, want to come up and tell him like, well, that's weird because I was his best friend and his brother, and I don't even know who the hell you are, so that stuff can get a little much where people just are over the top with, or just bringing it up like, that are out of context, it's that, where I just want to put somebody through the wall when they do it. It's that part was very hard. But somebody just saying, hey, man, I just wanted you to know, that I get. And that's very appreciated, But sometimes you get that one tiny little percentage of people that just are uncouth and don't get it. That kind of was tough, too, because, I got to live it every day. I don't want to constantly have to, just for you and for everybody else, be, and then you realize I don't know, only back an explanation. It's tough, And at any given time, I can tell you this, for a long time, Jack, I'd start laughing about something, and I can remember thinking, why do you have a right to laugh? Don't laugh. And that wasn't me. It definitely changed who I was overall, like made me more, I don't know, all in all. I'm still got I don't know, I don't know if it's say grow up or get more serious. I don't know. But it was hard in that regard, and you just, I don't know, you just keep getting up and going. At no given time do you forget about it. I don't know how to explain that till somebody's been through it. And I will say this, because I've had other things a couple other really bad ones too that I just can't even believe that I've at this age that I've had, only at 50, that, those experiences. But don't ever think that door, that knock on your door can't be there. Because I didn't think it would happen to me 3 times with friends and employees and brothers, and where you're just, and I'm talking about absolutely like, what? I mean, to where you can't comprehend it. You can't even, it can happen. And I don't say that to be bah humbug. I'm saying it that, thank your lucky stars. And I'm not telling you what to do, but kiss your children and your family and be happy and grateful, because, it can be gone so friggin' fast, and I know it, and at no given time, like I say, I feel like I'm happy, and then I'm sad at the same time, and there's a melancholy in the back of my head somewhere that just doesn't ever go away, and I know it won't, and that's okay, because that's how it's supposed to be.
Yep.
A part of me thinks that's me being able to honor her, but at the same time, if you knew my brother Pat, he'd be like, "Oh, are you big puss? Just get back to being you. Quit being it." Then it's a trap. So I get that too. I understand that. But then at the same time, I can tell him to suck it too, because I want to be sad. So get out of here. So we have those conversations sometimes between us. So if that all makes sense, I don't know. It's hard to put into words.
Yeah, it makes total sense. That's I haven't been through anything close to that yet, but
hopefully you never have to.
But yeah, that's like, what's the alternative, I guess, is kind of the theme.
Right.
What the fuck else?
You just keep taking it, man. You get up and go. You got to get up and do it. I don't know what else to do. And like I said, his wife is the epitome of an angel. I mean, I just don't, how that woman is strong as they come, buddy. So, but yeah.
What's have you ever heard there's this old like Chinese proverb? I know I'm the guy that should be speaking about Chinese proverbs here, but there's this farmer, and his son has a horse, and the horse runs off, and he goes, "Oh my God, this is so fucking terrible, Dad. The horse ran off." And the farmer says, "Well, maybe." And then it comes back with the band of all these other horses, and he goes, "Oh my God, Dad, this is so great, And the dad says, "Well, maybe." And now that he has a horse, he can ride it, and he falls off the horse, breaks his leg, and can't tend to the farm. And he goes, "We're not gonna be able to eat, Dad. This is horrible. Maybe." And then the Zen master, whoever the hell the Chinese king is, tries to recruiting him for war. Can't go to war because his leg's broken. He goes, "Oh, thank God." The people are saying, "Thank God." Maybe. Yeah. You got the Irish green on. They got the Irish bar. Do you believe in luck? How do you look at that?
That proverb I get. It's just, how does this play out? There's a lot of different avenues this can take. As far as luck, in a fun way, I'll say, the luck of the Irish. I do believe in. I honestly believe you make your own. I think it's funny how a guy that worked his ass off and is all of a sudden lucky. Or a girl. That ain't luck. I was told quite a few times when they opened that soccer stadium. I did a lot of interviews at that time with different radio or TV stations, because they want to talk to businesses down there and whatever, which I get, and they're all very nice. But and without them knowing, after like the first or second time I heard it, I started stopping them. I had quite a few of the interviewers say, "Well, you got lucky. They opened this here," and I said, "I didn't get lucky. I got fortunate, and I'm very, very thankful to the soccer team, and I'm very fortunate and whatever. But it's icing on a cake. I've been here before they did that, and I would have been here if they didn't." And am I fortunate? Yes. Am I thankful? Yes. But I'm not lucky. I stayed when everybody else ran. Either they had to close or whatever. When I had everybody I knew saying, "Get out of there. You better leave while you can," or then COVID hit, or Highway 40 was shut down, or protests, or whatever. It was always something that you're trying to, but I dug my heels in and I stayed. I'm a St. Louis kid. I wanted to have a business in downtown St. Louis. I wanted to keep a business down there. I think it's important. When you go down Market Street, who we competing with? Cedar Rapids. We're St. Louis, man. We're one of the oldest cities, and we don't even have. Cyber. We have Cybers. Thank God. God knows, the powerhouse they are, and they're good friends and great people, and they do a good job. They're up the street in the hotel there, and and then there's me, and then everything's closed, man, and for right reasons. Some for this or that, but Harry's is gone, Shannon's is gone, Tony's is gone, Kemo's is gone. that's our main drag going down through downtown.
Yep.
You want to have people want to go to when they come in from out of town. They want to go to they don't want to go to to a national chain restaurant. They want to go to a place that's open by somebody local. That's how I feel. I know I do. So I think it's important. I think a lot of people sometimes Maggie's. I feel like we're never the sexiest date in town. But we always go to the dance, and there's something to be said for that. With whether it's I've had some liquor sales with guys that have been in this business, beer salesmen that have been in this for a long time. That's have said I wish I had 10 Maggies, because week in and week out, it's not we're sexy for a year and a half and then we close, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. So when they tell me I'm lucky. I don't think I am. I think I'm fortunate. I think I worked very hard to stay there and to try to make it successful, and feel like I have to a certain extent, knowing that at any given time I could lose it, but it wouldn't be from a lack of trying. So now, if you scratch a ticket right now, I won $1 million, I'd be calling you a little lucky bastard, and there'd be no doubt about that. I'd be definitely calling you lucky. Maybe that's lucky. I don't know. Maybe that's lucky. I don't know. But if somebody works hard for a while, I don't consider that.
That's right.
I don't consider that lucky. I think they worked for their luck.
Yeah. So you're on the main drag going into St. Louis. Almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Right? You said 2006.
Well, and keep in mind now, Maggie O'Brien's has been open since 1979.
Okay.
We're the second family. So
Gotcha.
Harry Belli and Johnny
Gotcha.
Gilmore, they owned it originally. God rest Johnny Gilmore's soul. But they owned it originally, and then we bought it from them. But so essentially, it's been owned by two St. Louis families. And we're around our 20th year, but since 1979. So we're about 45, 46 years in of being right there at Market and 20th.
So you being around there for so long, what do you see? You've been a business owner here for so long. What does St. Louis need? What do we need? It seems like we're, I don't know, desperate. It seems like we're never going to make it back to our former glory.
Yeah. It's such a hard question, Jack, and I'm certainly not qualified to give all the perfect answers. I'll say this: there is nobody more in the corner of City Hall than me. I have no agenda. I'm not trying to, I think a little common sense goes a long way, and I'm rooting for the people in those positions to make good decisions for all involved in St. Louis. Obviously, I own a restaurant and bar in downtown St. Louis, so I'm going to have a natural skew that way. But I think anything you can do for driving businesses to be there and make it good for them to be there is helpful for the city. Your first thing you're going to get from everybody is the crime and all that, and I get it, and how they. I don't want to tell them what, to me, that would be a focus as far as saying, hey, we're 150 police officers short. Yeah. We're gonna fix that. Yeah. Right. We're gonna fix that. We're gonna make this as at the best of our ability, focus very hard on making this city as safe as possible. And because I get people down there that'll ask me, hey, I'm staying at Union Station. Can I walk there? And we're just, you're talking about crossing the street. But that's truly the concept that they feel about St. Louis if they come in from out of town. And you got to change that, because if you think for 1 second that there aren't people that want to come but don't because of that reason, and they're just not in there asking a question because they're not there, that's an issue. And then that comes back to the businesses being able to be successful down there. Because I still know plenty of people out in the counties that are like, I ain't gonna let my wife go down there with the girls or something by themselves, or that's a reality. Now I'm not trying to pile on that, because I'm not. I don't have the answers, other than I think you definitely need to have whether it's giving them a raise, making sure they're at the top of the police. God knows they deserve it, and then to where you can attract the rest of those other 200 guys. Whatever you got to do there, I think that would be a good start. And then from there, I feel like there's such division, of so much. Nobody's rooting harder for them than me. And I certainly don't have all the answers. I do think that, making sure people understand that policing and whatever is your priority is very, very important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that 100%. And a good buddy of mine and I, we talk about how to build the city up a lot because we're part of a group of 10 guys who are just committed to, like, what can we do in the next 10, 20 years to just make this city absolutely thrive. But what we talk about a lot is, this is like a marketing, like you're saying, it's a marketing problem to some degree. When I had my great grandpa passed away and he had family from Arkansas, this was, I guess, around 2015, right after the Ferguson riots. We're down in South County and they're worried, hey, how close are we to Ferguson? And Ferguson's 45 minutes away from us.
Right.
The perception of it is just so.
And you could walk right down the street in Ferguson.
Yeah.
That's the
I
other
lived
thing
there for a
that's
little
so
bit.
funny. Is the people act like, this some terror. I'm like, I could give you 5 other places. There's no more, Ferguson, Florison's awesome. I mean, that's a staple of St. Louis. I mean, I like I said, I certainly don't have the answer, but I'll tell you this: people forget about, and what I'm proud of with being down there. I mean, you got what they did with Soldiers Memorial, what they did with that right there at Keener Plaza with that walk and the gardens there. You got what they did with the arch grounds. You no longer have to take your life into your hands crossing over that friggin' highway. I mean, you work your way from the arch all the way down, and then you get to obviously the soccer stadium. Come on, man! I mean, the soccer stadium, not just the stadium. What they did, and hey, thank God for those are St. Louis people. That the Kavanaughs and the Adams. I mean, with Enterprise and Worldwide Technology, that's a big deal. Those are people staying and believing back in our city, and I believe in it, and I do believe it can get better. I'm not a person like, oh, screw that. If that was the case, I would have left when everybody was telling me to leave. So I do believe it can get better. It just I think you truly got to make decisions that aren't comfortable for everybody. That doesn't. It's not easy, but you need to get away from. I'm going to do this to make sure I appease and say, I'm sorry, this is what we're doing. And I'm not sorry, I guess. We're going to make these decisions because it's better for everyone. People got to feel comfortable and safe down there. But I believe in St. Louis, and I want it to do well, and I think it will. And like I said, if you start from the arch and work your way down, there's been some serious improvements over the last 5 to 10 years, for sure 5. And then what Mr. O'Loughlin did with Union Station, I mean, come on, man, with the wheel and redoing that inside, and they get conventions and stuff. I mean, that's a big deal. Those are people reinvesting back. They feel like I do. The only difference is they got $6 more than I do. Okay, maybe more than 6. But you got to figure those guys feel that way, or they're smart businessmen. All those, and women, smart businessmen. They're not going to put that kind of money if they don't believe in in St. Louis. So I that's how I feel about it. I think it can get better. So.
Fucking right. Amen. What's Maggie's number 3? What's next for you?
Maybe definitely looking to keep expanding downtown. I own that building, so we can do the second floor.
Yeah.
Which we're looking at trying to do sometime soon. Not sure on a start date or anything like that. A lot of things involved there, but definitely have that in progress, and then eventually maybe even going all the way up, on the 3rd floor. So yeah, it'd be cool. So anyway, right now I'm focused on that, and then we got Maggie O'Brien Sunset Hills that does pretty well as well, and so I'm just kind of riding those 2 right now, and just see what comes. Keep fooling them while I can, buddy. Just keep fooling them while I can. My dad used to always say that to me. No matter what, when I open Maggie's, keep fooling them while you can. I bring a pretty girl to Thanksgiving. Keep fooling them while you can, Red. Keep fooling them while you can.
Yeah, that's I resonate with that. Good Lord. So what's okay? So my last question I always ask is, what's the most important thing that young people should be paying attention to right now?
Most important thing, like as far as socially,
anything. Where should their attention be? Because I think our attention is even more important than our time sometimes. Yeah. Where should that be?
You think? Say that again. The attention. What?
Yeah, I think where we place our attention is even more important than where we place our time.
Yeah. When you say young people, I'm thinking young adults. This would be what I would say to my my nieces and nephews. I think that it's so easy nowadays to buy into this, this dividing, this hype of everything has to be this, or you're a terrible person, everything has to be that. I think listening to all sides is a good thing. And like I said earlier in this talk, I think a little common sense goes a long way. So if you're a kind person and genuinely want the best for not only your family and friends, but for everybody around you, just have a little common sense, listen to both sides, have a little common sense, and then make your decisions from there. The bummer, I think, is a lot, not necessarily just younger people, but the older people are given bad examples of there is no, it's in a lot of cases, the common sense has gone out the window. And I think that goes a long way. So.
Well, Eddie McVey.
Right on, man. Thank you for having me, Jack. I'm proud of you guys. Jake, thank you too, man. On the ones and the twos.
On the ones and the twos,
man. Thank you. Go Blues.